Thank you very much. As before, first we will have candidate introductions. Candidates have 2 minutes, and then we will go to questions and also questions from the audience. So, Jamie, since you're to my right, do you want to start and introduce yourself?
Okay if I stand up?
Yes, go right ahead.
I think better on my feet, which is why I like to stand up. So, good afternoon and thank you for coming. I'm Jaime Keating. I'm a frontline prosecutor with a passion for justice and a will towards prosecution. First I want to thank the Capital Region Indivisible for having us all here tonight. It's very important. I view every questionnaire that we've filled out as a job application, and I view every opportunity to talk in these appearances as a job interview. And so I take it very seriously, and I appreciate the fact that you allow us to come out and talk about this. My personal background is I was born here in Cumberland County. I was raised in Central PA. I live in Carlisle with my family, Kathy, of 26 years. My wife. I have 4 children, Emily, Aaron, William, and Matthew. They're all 2 years apart. I worship at St. Patrick's Parish. I guess you'd describe me as a conservative Republican, and I am running for the Republican side of District Attorney for the primary on May 21st. Regardless of your party, though, everyone's against crime, and no one's for it. And so regardless of what your politics are, what your party is, anyone who's stepping up to this position should take politics out of it and look at what's best for the county itself. So let me tell you about my experience background. I have 25 years as a prosecutor. This is the only job I've ever loved. I was first assistant here in Cumberland County for 12 years. Before that, I was a chief deputy for Dave Freed. I helped run the office as far as that goes. Before that, I was a chief deputy in charge of all the appeals. I've done about every type of case you can imagine, from murder to child abuse to everything else. So I've tried each case, but the DA doesn't try every case. They set up everybody for the case itself. So I'm Jaime Keating. I'm a frontline prosecutor. I'm asking for your vote on the 21st. Thank you.
So I'm Sean Quinlan, and I want to say thank you again to CRI. Once again, here we are. This was a one of these opportunities where you finish running for one office and you see that your county and your party needs you to run again, and you start to say, all right, well, fine, I'll play the role, I'll run for the office, and then you have to do some soul searching. I spent 7 years prosecuting, 2 for the county of York and 7 for the state. So 9 years total prosecuting and 9 years defending. I've been in just about every courthouse in central Pennsylvania, the federal building, dozens and dozens of judges, probably hundreds of DAs, and you start to get a sense of the way things go with the criminal justice system here in central Pennsylvania. And when you step into this role and you ask, what can I bring differently to a DA's race? Our piano teacher was in our living room and she said, well, what does the race for DA look like? And I said, typically it looks like 3 words: tough on crime. And tough on crime has gotten us to an exploding prison population. Does anybody know what our current prison population is? We're approaching 3 million people, in the country. And this is, that's more than was in apartheid South Africa. That's more than that was in Stalin's Russia. That's more than at any point in human history of people in jail. And you stop saying to yourself, this is an opportunity to play a role in local politics. It's actually an opportunity to take a stand in what may be the civil rights issue of our time. And when the gravity sets in, it stops being a game and it has real value. And it's a time for us to really decide whether these local elections have the value that they should in our communities.
Thank you, Sean. Why don't you hang on to the microphone and we'll start with you with the first question. Do you think every offender charged with delivering drugs, should be charged with a maximum offense, which is a form of homicide, or only in certain circumstances? And on what basis would you make that decision?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Could you repeat it?
I think if you think of it in terms of if someone delivers drugs knowing that there was fentanyl in the drugs, or leaving someone who has overdosed without getting help. Those are the examples that immediately come to mind. But given the opioid epidemic, we are frequently confronted with these choices about charging people who have actually delivered the drugs.
Yeah, so this is a relatively new phenomenon where we have fentanyl showing up in our heroin, which, this is such a weird, uniquely American issue where we have this heroin issue that drags on, and then because it drags on and on, the war on crime has been an abysmal failure. We keep locking people up rather than treating the addiction, and therefore now we find people seeking a bigger hit, a higher high. And as a result, the fentanyl is killing people. And I'm not telling anyone here what they don't already know, but the answer has been supplied to us through the legislature, which what happens is if someone dies, it's up to a DA to decide whether or not they want to seek life without parole. And this is part of what explodes our prison population. If I can have the opportunity to run on this issue, in other words, in the future as a DA, I can parlay this tragic event into future public office. We saw it with Arlen Specter, we saw it with Ed Rendell, where we've got a dead body, a derelict, typically poor, addicted person themselves that is selling the drugs, and then campaign on it in the future. See how tough I was? I got him. I put that guy in jail for life. And in the meantime, we haven't addressed the underlying issue holistically as a community, we're not treating the heroin problem. All we're doing is, putting another person in jail forever and ever to the tune of $60,000 a year.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
So first, I'm going to have to disagree with a few things. First, drug delivery resulting in death is not a form of homicide under the Crimes Code. It's not. You don't get a life sentence for that as a result. And there are laws that if you help someone or fail to help someone, there's a Good Samaritan law. So that's not an issue. Addressing this issue, though, I've actually worked on treating addicts. I was on the board for the opioid court to set up the opioid court to look at people who are addicted, but also going after suppliers who are just in it for the money. You have to do both, and we've been able to, and just doing one won't work. And the good news is, it is working. We're also making sure through the district attorney's office that we're getting the naloxone to police officers' hands so that they can actually help people who have overdose. So I've already looked at this, started working on this, and up until 2018, Cumberland County was a leader in the state as far as addressing this issue. Since 2018, unfortunately, you don't hear about it. You don't hear about what's been going on or anything else. I think you have to look at both sides. I agree with that. But however, there are things being done and have things been done as a result of my experience as far as that goes. I've dealt with people who are addicted to heroin. I've talked to them on a regular basis, and we looked at the people who are supplying these things and making money off of that. And what I've done is try to keep them out of Cumberland County. Thank you.
Thank you. The costs to operate the Cumberland County Prison make up a large part of the county budget. Some prisoners are in pretrial detention, and many of those are there because they cannot make bail. Would you consider alternatives to posting bail to secure defendants charged with non-violent, non-felony crimes to secure their appearance at trial? Jamie, you want to start with this?
Yes. No. Yes, that's a no-brainer. We have to look at how we do bail. Cumberland County does not have pretrial services like other counties has. And so that's one of the things that we have to take a look at because it's an investment. If you don't invest it on the front end, then then you're going to pay it on the back end. But however, the cost at the Cumberland County Prison is not just because everyone's locked up and everything of that nature. You need to standardize your bail request to the magisterial district judge. The district attorney doesn't control who gets bail and who doesn't, but he can, or she can, control what you ask for bail. And I think, personally, one of my plans is to standardize a formula for bail, not based on this, that, or the other thing, but based on, are they going to appear? Do they have prior records? And of course, public safety is going to be one of those factors. Right now, there's a case going on out of Carlisle, a guy by the name of Albright, and he started out with burglary case, had an indecent exposure. You might think that that's a non-violent offense, but right now, as a result, he's charged with indecent contact with a 13-year-old. And his bail was reduced from $9,000 to unsecured completely. That's a safety issue. And again, that's up to somebody else, but the DA's office has to take a look at it. And I support all the different ideas of how to look at bail as a result of that. Thank you.
Sean?
Thank you. Yes, Washington, D.C. abolished the cash bail system about 30 years ago, and it's still functioning. And I think we see Larry Krasner in Philadelphia. If you don't have a violent offender or a sex case, we should not have a cash bail system. This is there's no nexus between whether or not you can pay to get out and whether or not you'll reoffend. And what it does is punish the poorest amongst us, put them in jail where we provide them with 3 hots and a cup while they're waiting to go to court. Or you're wealthy enough to bail out, and you can reoffend while you're bailed out too. There's no nexus between this hinge, that money, between you and the door, unless you're rich. And we all know how this works. If you're rich, you walk. And if you're not, you sit. This is something I see every day with criminal clients. Did you have the cash? Could you call your mom? And if you don't have the cash, you don't have your mom, you don't have a lawyer, you get the PD, and you sit and you wait. We pay for the PD too. This is an expense issue. This is money that could be going to the library. This is money that could be going to our transportation system. This is money that we don't have to lay out because we don't have the foresight or the circumspection to say that the way forward is not through cash bond, not through cash bail.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, given that we have fewer candidates. So, as district attorney, how would you handle a fatal use of force incident involving local police?
Thank you. So, you do enough defense work for a while, you start to get extremely suspicious of DAs and cops on cases specifically like this, where typically you'll have a police officer who becomes a DA, who becomes a judge, and you have the same good old boy network. Not to say that our current system here in Cumberland County is so infected, but there is the appearance of impropriety. And where that appearance of impropriety exists, the DA should recuse, invite the Attorney General to come in and oversee the case where they're not working with someone for generations and don't have a brother-in-law who works at the police force or somehow related. The appearance of impropriety is extremely relevant, especially in the circumstances of criminal justice, where you have very high tension between the accused who is in law enforcement and somebody who may or may not have been at fault. Unfortunately, these are the instances that we see all the time. Naturally, there are those that are less controversial, but where there is that controversy, recuse, invite the AG in to oversee the case.
Jamie?
So involving these particular cases is twofold. The way you handle this first is build your trust within the community itself. When these cases were in the forefront in the national media about police-involved shootings, I actually worked with different communities, with minorities, within Carlisle at Hope Station, things of that nature, to talk to children, work in schools, work with police departments, to build that trust so that they know that the police are here to help you. They're public servants. And I can tell you from being here in Cumberland County and working in Franklin County, you're blessed to have really good law enforcement here. You do. And I'm just going to say that straight out. I've had cases in which police officers, however, had to use force, deadly force, as a result. And there are proper investigations that have to be done and decisions have to be made. Now, in that particular case, I agree, there should be a good old boy network. However, you have to use every investigation, look at the facts of the case, make your decision, but most importantly, at the end, when you make that decision, there has to be transparency in the process itself, because you build that trust in the community first, and then you reinforce that trust then by showing transparency, so that people understand. And right now, in the district attorney's office, you don't have the use of Facebook, you don't have the use of Twitter and things that modern ways to build that transparency so people understand what the DA is doing with the power to prosecute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We do have time scheduled for a question from the audience. Does anyone have a question for the district attorney candidates? Joe Mitchell.
Youth aid panels, I think, have been used very wisely in the county. I've been on a youth aid panel both under District Attorney Freed and District Attorney Ebert. I was wondering what your position was on whether they would continue or not. We're one of the pioneer counties in having.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all of you that don't know what a youth aid panel is, it's for low-level infractions for juveniles, rather than bringing them to court, it actually brings them through the community itself before they even get to court. I would expand not only with the youth aid panels, but I'd look at further consent decrees in juvenile court. I would look for deferred adjudications, so that anything that's going to give. And I actually volunteered for juvenile court in order to do that. I was first assistant, and people said, "Jamie, you're crazy. Why don't we go in juvenile court? You have enough murders, rapists, robbers, and everything else with that." But I'm a father, and I can tell you that the best place to make a difference is in juvenile court, and using all the different tools for rehabilitation so they don't go into adult court in the first place. So yes, I think youth aid panels are very important, but it's not enough. We can't go back to just what we've done in the past and recycle everything. What we have to do then is to expand, and because you've heard from the county commissioners and everybody races too, we're expanding as a county, and so we have to grow responsibility in our responses, because criminal justice issues are going to grow. It's not going to go away. One of the things I'm seeing in the schools are drugs as well. So yes, youth aid panels, deferred adjudications, consent decrees, those are all things not only that I know about from reading about them, but I've experienced them and have used.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, I agree with everything Jamie just said. I started my career in the juvenile prosecution unit and the crimes against children unit in York County. I wholly agree. I would also say that what you see in the Juvenile Justice Act is an extremely circumspect application of law to a certain segment of the population, specifically children. And it's an opportunity. There's a chance there for us, if I were in the legislature, but I'm not, I would encourage our judicial candidates to adopt specialized courts. So, Cumberland County is, new to the game. Back 20 years ago when I was with the DA's office in New York, they had the first drug court. It's been used incredibly well. There are such things as veteran courts, also used incredibly well. And I would submit that what would be incredibly vital, and especially given our healthcare system, is mental health courts. If you can't afford access to your medication and you're mentally ill and you can't get to see a therapist, and now you're in the criminal justice system again and again and again, to the tune of $60,000 a year, what we could have done is have a separate mental health court to treat these people as a distinct population that they are.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Very quickly? We actually do have a mental health court in Cumberland County. I was involved in help setting it up, also with the opioid dependent. I was on the board that set that up as well. So yes, we actually do. Judge Brubaker is the head of that as a result. And we had drug court, but we're also noticing that because we were growing, we had to develop an opioid court too. So, but juvenile court is the first, problem-solving court that we've had for years. And I would also ask, hopefully, that there's certain protections that need to be put in place for for juvenile court to give both sides, both the defense and the prosecutors, flexibility. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have one other question from the audience, which is somewhat open-ended, but what do you think about correctional officers sexually assaulting prisoners?
Well, that's a crime, and well, I mean, I don't mean to be obtuse about it, but it is, and I don't mean to make it light or anything of that nature. But like any other crime, it's got to be fully investigated, and it's got to be prosecuted just like any other type of crime. You know, everyone who's accused of crime is presumed to be innocent, but there are certain protections. I mean, Cumberland County is very unique. I mean, not only do we have a county prison, but we have a state prison as well, and that raises a lot of issues. And just because you happen to be in a prison doesn't mean that it's okay for you to be sexually assaulted by anyone, by a prisoner, by a staff member, or a member of the public. Doesn't matter. You've got to look at the facts. You got to look at what you can prove, and as a result of that. And you know, I had a unfortunate case in which somebody who was in custody with somebody who was a prostitute who was in the custody of a police officer, and he kept charging her so that he could coerce her to have sex, and we charged him with rape because psychologically she had no, felt like she had no choice. And we brought that case to trial, and it went. I didn't convict him of rape, but he's no longer a police officer. So, and it's not like I'm targeting police. You target people who are being investigating crimes, and the best way to do that and make decisions based on the evidence, based on the law, based on what you think you can prove. That's how I make all my decisions, not only what I have to offer to plead, but how I go to trial as well. Thank you.
Sean?
I agree. If it's serious and it's a criminal offense, it should be prosecuted.
Thank you. Well, thank you, gentlemen.